2. The Inner Symphony. A collection of parts produces the concept of a vehicle. Samyutta Nikaya. Mind is harder to describe. It's not a thing we can point to as easily as we can identify the body or speech. However deeply we investigate this aspect of being, we can't really locate any definite object that we can call the mind. Does it start somewhere, exist somewhere, and stop somewhere? Does it have a shape or a color? Does it even exist at all? Or is it just the random activity of brain cells that have, over time, accumulated the force of habit? But if we want to cut through all the varieties and levels of pain, suffering, and discomfort we experience in daily life, and grasp the full significance of having a mind, we have to make some attempt to look at the mind and distinguish its main features. The process is actually very simple. It only seems difficult at first because we are so used to looking at the world out there, a world that seems to be so full of interesting objects and experiences. When we look at our mind, it's like trying to see the back of our head without the aid of a mirror. So now I'd like to propose a simple test to demonstrate the problem of trying to look at the mind according to our normal way of understanding things. Don't worry, you can't fail this test, and you don't need a number 2 pencil to fill out any forms. Here's a test. The next time you sit down to lunch or dinner, ask yourself, what is it that thinks that this food tastes good or not so good? What is it that recognizes eating? The immediate answer seems obvious by brain. But when we actually take a look at the brain from the perspective of modern science, we find that the answer isn't quite so simple. What's going on in there? All phenomena are projections of the mind. The third KARMAPA, wishes of Mahamudra. Mindfulness. Looking again and again at the mind, which cannot be looked at. The meaning can be vividly seen just as it is. The third KARMAPA, song of KARMAPA, the aspiration of the Mahamudra of true meaning. The key, the how of Buddhist practice lies in learning to simply rest in a bare awareness of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions as they occur. In the Buddhist tradition, this gentle awareness is known as mindfulness, which in turn is simply resting in the mind's natural clarity. Just as in the example of the dog, if I were to become aware of my habitual thoughts, perceptions, and sensations, rather than being carried away by them, their power over me would begin to fade. I would experience their coming and going as nothing more than the natural function of the mind. In the same way that waves naturally ripple across the surface of a lake or ocean, and ultimately I realized this is exactly what happened when I sat alone in my retreat room, trying to overcome the anxiety that had made me so uncomfortable throughout my childhood. Simply looking at what was going on in my mind actually changed what was going on there. You can begin to taste the same freedom of natural clarity right now through a simple exercise. Simply sit up straight, breathe normally, and allow yourself to become aware of your breath coming in and going out. As you relax into simply being aware of your inhalation and exhalation, you'll probably start to notice hundreds of thoughts passing through your mind. Some of them are easy to let go of, while others may lead you down a long avenue of related thoughts. When you find yourself chasing after a thought, simply bring yourself back to focusing on your breath. Do this for about a minute. In the beginning, you may be surprised by the sheer number and variety of thoughts that pull through your awareness like a waterfall rushing over a steep cliff. An experience of this sort is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of success. You begin to recognize how many thoughts ordinarily pass through your mind without you even noticing them. You may also find yourself getting caught up in a particular train of thought and following it while ignoring everything else. Then suddenly you remember that the point of the exercise is simply to watch your thoughts. Instead of punishing or condemning yourself, just go back to focusing on your breath. If you keep up this practice, you'll find that even though thoughts and emotions come and go, the mind's natural clarity is never disturbed or interrupted. The mind, in many ways, is like the ocean. The color changes from day to day or moment to moment, reflecting the thoughts, emotions, and so on passing overhead, so to speak. But the mind itself, like the ocean, never changes. It's always clean and clear, no matter what it's reflecting. Practicing mindfulness may seem hard at first, but the point is not how successful you are right away. What seems impossible at present becomes easier with practice. There's nothing you can't get used to. Just think about all the unpleasant things you've accepted as ordinary, like wading through traffic or dealing with a bad-tempered relative or coworker. Becoming mindful is a gradual process of establishing new neuronal connections and inhibiting the gossip among old ones. It requires patiently taking one small step at a time, practicing in very short intervals. There's an old Tibetan saying, if you walk with haste, you won't reach Lhasa. Walk gently and you will reach your goal. Experience follows intention. Wherever we are, whatever we do, all we need to do is recognize our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions as something natural, neither rejecting nor accepting. We simply acknowledge the experience and let it pass. If we keep this up, we'll eventually find ourselves becoming able to manage situations we once found painful scary, or sad, we'll discover a sense of confidence that isn't rooted in arrogance or pride. We realize that we are always sheltered, always safe, and always home. Remember that little test I asked you to try about asking yourself the next time you sit down to lunch or dinner, what is it that thinks that this food tastes good or not so good? What is it that recognizes eating? It seems pretty easy to answer once upon a time, but the answer doesn't come so easily anymore, does it? Even so, I'd like you to try it again the next time you sit down to lunch or dinner. If the answers that come up for you now are confusing and conflicting, that's good. Confusion, I was taught, is the beginning of understanding, the first stage of letting go of the neuronal gossip that used to keep you chained to very specific ideas about who you are and what you are capable of. Confusion, in other words, is the first step on the path of real well-being.